This is the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast, episode number 22.
Do you feel lost? Confused?
Hello and welcome to this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. My name is John Melly, and this is the podcast dedicated to teaching in-depth and advanced marketing strategies for people in the voiceover and audio production professions. My goal is to help you make more money by showing you ways to leverage your time, charge more for your talents, and allow you to spend more time doing the things you want to do in your life. Hey there, it's John. Welcome to the episode. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I do appreciate it. My guest today is Emmy-winning producer Rudy Gaskins. And Rudy is also the president and CEO of the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. And he's also part of the creation team for the Voice Arts Awards. And we're going to be talking about the Voice Arts Awards during this episode. We're going to talk to Rudy in just a couple of moments. But I'm really excited to tell you that the number of downloads for the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast is now 12,267 as of this recording. And I just have to thank you for all of the downloads and the comments and feedback and sharing it with your friends in the voiceover and audio production community. It's an awful lot of fun. And we have some new members to the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast group on Facebook. Do a quick shout out to Paul Osoria, Neil Wilson, Jason Lanier White, AJ Nunez, Chris Lanning, Catherine Curridon. Hey, Catherine, thanks for all your help with getting me on the eWabs. That was an awful lot of fun. And another shout out to Marty Daniels. Thank you so much. And Joanna C. Riley, thank you very much for your voice message. I really do appreciate it. Your kind thoughts and your words and everything that you share with me there. And I also want to thank you for registering for the webinar that I have going on through voiceoverextra.com. That's on Wednesday, July 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. And I would encourage everybody to register for that event. What I'm going to be talking about is how to get paid in advance of doing the work, or at least getting a hefty deposit before you actually turn on the microphone. And I'm going to do some number crunching and show you why you need to increase your rates and how to go about doing it. Because a lot of folks miscalculate their income and they're not really making the money they think they're making. Like I said, the event is Wednesday, July 9th. It's through voiceoverextra.com. It's only $49. So that's less than what you'd spend on takeout. And what I'm going to share with you is many times that investment. To register, just go to voiceovermarketingpodcast.com, episode number 22, and click the big register here for the webinar link. You can't miss it. And do that right away because it's filling up and we've got a lot of great stuff to cover and I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be a long episode, and I think it was Devox. Devox, if you're listening, you had asked at the eWabs hangout that I did earlier this week, you had asked about the duration of the podcast episodes, and this one is going to be a long one because we started talking to Rudy, and as soon as he got on the phone, we were off and running, and he had a lot of great things to share. I didn't even get a chance to do an intro for him. He just picked up the phone and we started going. But before I play the interview with you, I just want to tell you that in case you don't know who Rudy Gaskins is, he's the CEO and Executive Creative Director of Push Creative, which is a full-service branding agency that provides strategic marketing, graphic design, and video and film production. They also provide voiceover training and media training for on-camera presentations. Clients include Miss America 2013. He's now planning the 5th annual That's Voiceover event in Los Angeles in the UK. Other clients of his include Lexus, Fox News Channel, BET, American Express, Spike TV, ABC Television, The History Channel, MSNBC, NBC Sports, PBS, basically alphabet soup of every network letter out there. He's done it. He lives in Brooklyn, New York with his wife and business partner and voiceover talent. You probably know her, Joan Baker. And like I said before, he's involved with the creation of the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. He's the president and CEO of that. And he's in the process of creating the Voice Arts Awards and the 5th annual production of That's Voiceover. And he also told me that for to maintain sanity, he's currently training for his black belt in Taekwondo. One thing I forgot to mention was that he was an apprentice film editor on Francis Ford Coppola's The Cotton Club. And so he started there. And we talk about that in the interview. So rather than me babble on about the bio that he sent to me. Let's go listen to the conversation with Rudy Gaskins.
Hello, this is Rudy.
Hi, Rudy. John Melly.
Hey there.
How are you, sir?
I'm just fine.
Thank you very much for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Hey, well, I appreciate you reaching out, and it's always great to be able to share what we're doing with the voiceover community and beyond, so happy to be here.
I got your bio last night. I looked it over, and I was like, wow, you've done an awful lot. And it got me inspired to, we can talk about what you're doing over with the Voice Arts Awards, but I was wondering if you wouldn't mind just taking a little tack on thinking big, because you're doing so much stuff. I'm sure I just would love to talk a little bit about how you come up with ideas and then you start implementing and you start getting stuff done. I hope you don't mind talking about that a little.
Oh, sure. Well, it's thinking big. That's a great topic. I wish we could just sit down and talk about that and that I had a minute or two to think about what I would really want to say about that. But here, the thing is, I came into the business out of NYU right into feature films.
Yeah.
So the first project that I worked on was for Francis Ford Coppola's Cotton Club. So when you're in that environment, thinking big is the norm. You're not even thinking of it as thinking big. You're just thinking of it as
that's the norm.
Getting your daily job done. But in the meantime, you're sitting next to someone like Francis Ford Coppola and listening to him wax philosophical about the edits in a film. So you start to it starts to become somewhat second nature to try to always do your best and to reach out for the people who are trying to do their best. And you see what kinds of fruit comes from that. And it becomes your diet.
Right. Well, I love this. I haven't even introduced you yet. It's like we could start the show with that. But definitely we would like to talk to you about the creation of the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences and the Voice Arts Awards. You know John Florian from VoiceOver Extra?
Absolutely.
Yeah, John and I'm putting together a webinar for him in mid-July, and he's done some email blasts for me with this podcast, and we got some pushback on what I think is a very reasonable fee for the webinar. And he mentioned that there was some pushback on his forum about these awards, and I went and kind of looked at it, and I thought, oh, geez, folks, this is why are you thinking this way? And so the Radio Mercury Awards, you have to pay to enter those things and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought, you know what? I want to give you a forum to address that elephant in the room and talk about that. And, I don't know if you listened to the last episode, but I talked about the whole mindset of money and prosperity thinking. I was thinking, you know what?
No, I did listen to that episode.
Oh, okay.
And I really do appreciate your point of view on that. And I thought you were spot on.
Okay.
I know it's a difficult conversation to put out there.
Yeah.
And but the voiceover community, and I put that in quotes because the voiceover community is really part of a larger marketing and entertainment community. Mm-hmm. And the idea that we've sort of, as voice actors, segmented ourselves in such a way that there's little contact with the larger industry is somewhat unfortunate. But that's fine because there's room to grow and there's room to learn. But the point I want to make is that there is going to be an educational process of folks who will be learning what's involved really and truly in developing as a voice actor and as an entrepreneur and a marketer of your skills and your services. And if you look at any major organization, they always have awards, not because it's just some sort of, as some folks think, a scam, but because it's a measure of your willingness to put yourself out there with the fastest horses. It doesn't matter if you win or not. It matters that you're on the field. It matters that you're on the track and that you're willing to say, I'm doing my best to create the best possible work. So I'm in pursuit of something that's bigger than me, that's greater than me, and that everyone can get behind and that everybody wants a piece of. So I feel like, in awards, and this isn't the very first award ever to exist within the voiceover community, but it is the first award that I guess really makes an attempt to bring everybody together into the room. So it's not just for voice actors. It's for all the professionals who create the content and the environment for voice acting to happen. So by the time the script hits, the music stand, a whole hell of a lot of work has been done already. A lot of considerations have been made already.
Right.
And those people, the casting directors and the copywriters and the producers and creative directors and the clients who have products, whatever they may be, that they're trying to introduce to an audience, have done a lot of thinking about this. And hundreds of thousands of dollars may have already been spent before you even see the script. And we're not talking about the money that's going to be spent to place the marketing buys for the work that gets done. So it's important that everyone get into the room, that voice actors are not segmented as a community that only talks to themselves, sort of the blind leading the blind kind of thing, but that they're talking to the folks who facilitate the work, as in casting directors and managers and talent agents, and that they're talking to the people who create the work, so they have that perspective from the other side of the microphone. I love the analogy of playing catch with a child. When you first teach a child to play the simple game of catch, and you throw a ball to a 5-year-old in such a careful way that you almost place it in his hand, right? Mm-hmm. You throw it so gently because you need him to have the experience of catching. And it's in that process of throwing the ball so perfectly and so gently that you also develop your skill at throwing. So it's two sides to the equation. You have to know how to throw in order to know how to catch.
I like that.
And so it's important for voice actors to understand the other side of the microphone. So getting the creative directors and copywriters and brand strategists into the room helps everyone to get conversant with each other and to understand the issues for both sides.
Is that what the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences is about?
So yes, the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences does just that. It is I guess this had to come out of this world at some point, a 501(c)(3) corporation that allows all the folks who get involved, from members to sponsors and donors, to, one, have a tax deduction, but two, through 501(c)(3) status, you have the ability to facilitate scholarships and training for folks who, in some cases, may not have the financial means. They may have the talent, but not the financial means to do the training or to create a demo reel or to build a home studio. And so it's through this kind of tool that you can create access to those things. But the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences encompasses the full range of professionals who go into the entertainment and marketing side of what we do as professionals in the voiceover ranks. And I speak through the prism of voice acting because I've written thousands of spots. My wife is a voice actor.
Right.
And so I've sort of been steeped in that experience. And the Voice Arts Awards, as does the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, first and foremost is seen through the prism of voice acting. But that's just a vantage point. In truth, you could also look at all of the people involved from the prism of a copywriter or a creative director. But our audience and our first and best friends have been the voiceover community. So that's just the organic way that it all emerged.
Interesting. I should just point out to our listeners that your wife is Joan Baker.
That is correct.
Yes.
Effervescent.
Say again?
The effervescent, always joyful.
There you go.
Joan Baker.
I have not had the pleasure of meeting her personally, but I've attended a lot of workshops with Pat Fraley. And
oh, great. He's remarkable.
He's terrific. I really like Pat a lot. And I know that he's done an awful lot of workshops with Joan. So I've seen that.
Yes, they make quite a team.
Yeah, it's like infotainment.
That's true, and it should be, right. This shouldn't be all hard and grueling.
Right.
You know, people learn best when they enjoy the process of learning.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I had this whole intro that I was going to give you, but we dove right into the content. Maybe I'll go back and put some stuff at the beginning, but let's just keep on going if you're okay with that.
Sure.
So the creation of the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences and the Voice Arts Awards kind of has evolved, and this is the first year you're doing that.
It's the first year we've opened it up to the public.
Okay.
But we did announce the Voice Arts Awards, and the inaugural presentation of the Voice Arts Award went to the extraordinarily talented Keith David at last year's That's Voiceover event.
Okay.
Keith David is an amazing guy who I've known him since he was at Juilliard, and before he had the extraordinary chops that he's got today. I mean, he's always had the voice, but he did training at Juilliard for one. He did training in speech and diction. He continues to train. He's one of the few people I know who, as a kid, wanted to be a voice actor.
Oh, wow.
You know, before he even knew what a voice actor was, he just knew, I want to be one of those people whose voices I hear on TV.
I was just going to say he knew what one of those was.
Yeah. And I always thought, he wanted to be an actor, and he just slipped into voice acting.
Yeah.
But it's like, no. I wanted to be a voice actor, and I slipped into acting.
Oh, that's funny.
But, he's got a great, an illustrious background as a voice actor and two-time Emmy Award-winning voice actor and as an actor. And so it was great that he came on board to accept the awards last year. And that was the first introduction of the awards, so that people could become familiar with the idea. Hey, you got to step out and shake hands at some point. That was kind of the coming out party. This is the first year it's open to the public.
Okay.
And there has been, as you mentioned earlier, some pushback. Some folks feel like, I shouldn't have to pay for an award. And I can get that, because when we were all in grade school, we were given awards for showing up.
Right. Which I kind of have a problem with anyway. But
hey, you never miss a day in class, so you get an award, and you get an award for most this, most that. So, you kind of come up as a kid with awards being given to you just because you're involved in some activity and you did well. But awards, they go beyond that. We continue to create awards as professionals and as a society because they are a mark of achievement. And to create them takes something. I mean, it's taken many months to create a non-for-profit, yet alone this particular brand of non-for-profit. And, everything you do, every program, every scholarship, every choice you make when you create this kind of venture has to be vetted by the federal government.
Sure.
Before it can be offered to the public.
As we've heard.
And it's, and so we're spending money, we're spending time to do this, and then you have this award, which has to be designed and then has to be manufactured. I mean, literally, it's in a factory with people, pouring brass and gilding it in gold and all that sort of thing. So there's tremendous planning, creative thinking, and labor that goes into producing something like this. And, of course, it's all stemming from a genuine desire to create something that's powerful, that's meaningful, that's relevant, and that gives people a leg up in branding themselves out there in the community.
Right.
In your last podcast, I recall you describing the expense of an award as a marketing expense.
Correct, yeah.
And you're absolutely right on point. I mean, every network in the country right now who has won a Daytime Emmy Award is talking about the fact that they won a Daytime Emmy Award.
Right.
It's like, well, what's the point in winning it if I'm just going to take it home and not talk about it?
Right.
So it was a marketing expense for them. And they spent, not a few $100s, but many thousands of dollars. And the Oscars, I don't remember the record now, but, people spend upwards of $1 million in their Oscar campaigns.
The actors do? Or whomever the nominees are?
The production companies.
Okay.
The studios.
Okay.
And the actors are brought into that process to be here and there, to be on the television shows, to be in sort of a publicity circuit around the country to help promote that film. And so it is absolutely a marketing process. Now, winning, of course, comes down to the judges.
Right.
And they're making their choices not based on anything to do with marketing. Obviously, they're influenced by whatever marketing that you do, but these are smart people. They're able to compartmentalize what is marketing and how much that means to them and look at the actual work and make choices about what they feel about that. And they're as intelligent as anyone else, so if you feel like you're incapable of separating the two, then you might go on and assume someone else is. But most folks who are professionals and who've been doing this for a while, they get how to evaluate quality work and make a choice about which project they believe surpasses another in a given category.
As you're talking, I'm just sitting here, I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I'm saying, well, if everybody's paid a submission or an entry fee for the submission to be evaluated, then really that's a level playing field because everybody's paid. So
that's right.
So it's not like, you can grease the skids one way or another to actually win the award. Everybody's playing from the same set of rules.
That's
from
right.
the get-go. Even though there was
everyone's paying, and there's some things to think about when you talked about it being a marketing expense. There's a lot of talk in the voiceover community about branding yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, is quite off base because the idea of who the audience is never clear.
Interesting.
In many cases, folks are branding themselves for other voice actors. They meet up with each other and they talk about what they think of each other's logos and slogans and things like that. But other voice actors are not your audience. And there's little understanding about who that audience is, how that audience thinks, and how do you connect with that audience in a relevant and meaningful way.
That's brilliant. I think that's a huge point for people to understand is that if I could interject,
sure.
There are a lot of forums that the voiceover community has and social media and elsewhere where there's a lot of good advice given to each other. One of the things that I've said in many podcasts, and it's led me to a different path of success than a lot of voiceover talent pursue, but I achieved my greatest success moving outside the voiceover world. Attending conferences that were not a voiceover conference, but going to other types of things and connecting with other folks. Like you said, finding a different audience to share your message and your marketing with.
Right.
I would just support or echo your point in that sometimes it can be a little closed group in that we talk and say, what do you think about this? And it, like what you said, it doesn't matter what another voiceover person thinks. It matters what the target audience thinks.
That's right.
Okay.
And I mean that seems pretty obvious, but it's not really. Especially if you're not coming from a marketing background, you don't think that way. It's not second nature for you. And because you're an entrepreneur, because you have a product that you want to get out there or a service that you want to get out there, doesn't automatically make you good at getting it out there.
Right.
One has absolutely nothing to do with the other. And there's a conflict in terms of how much energy do you put into becoming a marketer, becoming a branding strategist, versus getting better at being a voice actor and developing those skills. Because, when it comes down to those final 2 or 3 people that I'm selecting for an audition, we're talking an nth of a degree. Difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not talking about, well, this guy obviously has these 3 things, so he wins. We get down to the point where it's, language like, I don't know, I just kind of like this one a little better.
Yeah.
And it's like, what causes that? What did that actor do that left everyone just feeling like, yeah, no, he just seems like the one. He just does it for me, which means he's connecting with me on all the strategic points that I've created around selecting a voice in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That high-level description that went out with the script, which was pared down from focus groups and various kinds of research and people sitting around the conference table digging in, figuring out what's going to sell this product. Now it's a little description at the top of a script. It's not like someone just scribbled that morning and said, oh, let's see what happens. But, someone tried to figure out what to put there at the top of that script over however many months or weeks or days. And the actor who wins that project has probably delivered something that he's not even aware that he delivers, just based on his confidence in himself, his willingness to interpret and find something new and interesting in what he's performing, and it cuts through. Okay. Even to the degree that I may be surprised, or the buyer may be surprised, that something happened with the script that was unexpected. Right. Even the writer, oh my God, I didn't realize that could happen with the way I wrote that line.
Yep.
But this actor found it. That's from just continually training as a voice actor. That's from continuing to look at who's doing great work, and not just in voiceover acting, but in acting in general, film, TV, and theater, and working on that craft. So if you're stopping that process to think about little pieces of electronic equipment that go into your studio, you may be missing the point altogether. I've got a great mic, I've got a great mixer, I've got a great interface and the preamp and blah, blah, blah. And but what have you done lately that's improving your performance?
let me step back. You mentioned something about the marketing and the branding. Do you need to be an expert with both, continuing to work on both, or?
At some point, you want to have an expert marketing person guide you on that side. You don't need to become a marketing expert, except to the degree that you start to build experience over time from doing it.
Right.
And it's a simpler process than you may think, from the standpoint that your audience is a very small audience, and there's not a whole lot you can do to affect change with that audience, except by virtue of understanding who they are and how they think and what their day is like and what's the best way to reach them. It's like when you make a phone call to someone and you say, hey, what time should I give you a call? And they tell you, and now we've got magic. You know when they're available, you make the call at the right time, everything happens. You know, when you reach out to your audience as a voice actor, are you calling them at the right time with the right message? So these kinds of things marketing professionals can really help you with. And most folks have marketing professionals in their lives as friends and family, and they don't even realize it or think of them as marketing professionals. And that's one way, one low-cost way to sort of get some assistance, is to reach out to the people who are in your immediate lives and kind of explain to them what's going on with you and what you're trying to do with your career, start to get some feedback there. But from the award standpoint, here's a really cool thing about an award. First of all, if you enter an award, and I don't know, it's $150, $200, $300. Say it's $500 to enter the award. What makes that money well spent? Forget about winning the award. First of all, when you enter the award, you're going to be smart enough to put the credits of the people with whom you've worked. So the copywriter and the producer and your agent and maybe the casting director, the creative director, their credits go on the form when you submit. Now you have a really great reason to call them, to make a connection with them, just to let them know, hey, I love the project that we worked on. I submitted it into the Voice Arts, and I made sure that you guys have credits. Your credits are listed there. If there's anything you want me to change about the credits, let me know, because I can log on and make those changes. But come November, we're going to know if we're nominees and if we've won something. Now you've given these people with whom you work something fun and exciting to think about and associate you with.
Yeah.
Number one, they appreciate the fact that you've shown an appreciation for the work you've done with them. And number two, there's dessert waiting.
It's like getting ready to go on vacation. You're thinking about the trip.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And if you become, even before you reach the nominee phase, these people are thinking about you. You're now top of mind because you've done something that brought everybody into the picture and into the fold in a fun and positive way.
And you're not asking them for something.
Exactly. You're actually fun. You're giving something for a change.
Yeah.
I spent some money. I did this award thing. That by itself is worth the price of admission. To make that kind of solid, relevant connection that isn't about, hey, is there another job for me? They're smart enough to think about that part on their own.
Right.
Once they're reminded that you exist, and they say, oh, yeah, we did have a great time working with her on that project. You know, what else have we got where she might be, the right choice for? So they're already going to start thinking that way. And now if you get nominated, you have another reason to call.
Right.
Just want to make sure you guys know, or just drop an email, whichever is the least intrusive and the most appropriate to your relationship and the rapport you have with that particular person or company. So now we're nominees. Now people are even more excited. Look how your money's starting to work for you now. And then if you win, well then,
boom.
Yeah, now you've got the trifecta.
Yep.
And these folks, by virtue of having been listed on the form, are also eligible for awards. So they can purchase their own award at that point. And this is the same thing that happens with the Emmys.
Interesting.
This is the exact same process. So folks involved in that process get to purchase an award, but they have to be listed. It's critical that they're listed in the beginning. You can't come in and add them after the fact.
Right, yeah. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, and folks do it. I mean, one of our partners, Steve Ulrich, who is the executive director of the Sports Emmys and the Daytime Emmys, and he's now the executive director of the Voice Arts Awards. He's a very creative guy, comes from NBC, did all the promos and sales tapes and things for NASCAR and for the NBA and for hockey and for golf, you name it, the whole NBC sports franchise, including the Olympics for many years.
Oh, wow.
In fact, he was my boss in the Olympics in 2000, which is, and it was under his guidance that I won an Emmy Award and with the work we did for the Olympic Games in 2000. But he's on board with us, and it really helps to put into perspective what it takes to do an award show at the highest level and to create an awards program at the highest level. So it's great having his support and his insight as we pursue this endeavor.
So how are things going?
Well, things are going really well. Just yesterday, we got the great news that James Earl Jones will be accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award from us.
Oh, wow.
So the Voice Arts Lifetime Achievement Award will go to James Earl Jones this November. And it was great to get the letter from him because he looked at what we were doing, and this is like a ground floor kind of thing, right?
Sure, yeah.
But he looked at our explanation and our mission, and he said, I would be honored to receive the Voice Arts Award.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can imagine, we were over the roof.
Sure, yeah.
We went out and had McDonald's.
There you go.
So that raises the profile of the awards, certainly, but hopefully it helps people to see that, there's something more to it than just the idea of winning or losing, or does it cost me money or not cost money? Personally, I'd like to have an award on my mantle that's also on James Earl Jones's mantle.
Sure.
I think he's a phenomenal performer, and he's delivered a lot. He's brought a lot to the global entertainment market.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I've seen him a couple times on Broadway, and every time he opens his mouth, you just can't think of anything else or turn your head.
Oh,
I mean,
he owns the room.
Literally could read the newspaper, and you'd just be riveted.
Sure. Yeah, he owns the room.
Yeah.
It's funny when you go. I was actually at a Pat Fraley workshop out at Buzzy's recording studio. This was a few years ago, and I heard this guy's voice. I think it's Miles Neff, who did a lot of Home Depot ads, and he does a lot of stuff for PBS. And anyway, we were talking before we went into the recording studio, and we were just chatting and all that kind of stuff. And then he walked into the booth, and he started throwing some lines out to the engineer. And just to hear it in the context of coming through a speaker, I said, oh, he's that guy. And there's just something about hearing the voice out of context and then in a context that you're used to hearing, that you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So this guy has had some serious chops.
Oh yeah, he's really, really talented and a super nice guy too. So
that reminds me of a very interesting point, I think, because here's someone who's a non-celebrity and whose voice is just extraordinary, and you're blown away by it, and it's memorable. And then you go to someone like James Earl Jones, and you ask the question, is he hired because he's a celebrity, or is he hired because he's just extraordinary? And I bring that up because I've heard, voice actors' concerns about the hiring of celebrities to do different kinds of projects. And obviously sometimes you hire a celebrity because it just makes good marketing sense that there's some sort of obvious organic connection between that celebrity and the product. And no one could sell it better. And you're in business, so you do what makes good business sense.
Right.
Other times, and I can point to a dozen commercials where you'd be hard-pressed to know who the actor is behind it. But it's a celebrity actor, but who has not been chosen because they are a known entity. They've been chosen because they're just extraordinary at interpreting the copy. Now, there may be familiarity, so there are a lot of advertising agencies who will say, okay, I know no one's going to know this person's voice, but there is going to be a level of familiarity with the voice because it's been heard in so many different places. So they're banking on that familiarity to create a little bit more of that conversational guy next door, this could be a friend of mine kind of experience. But beyond that, it's really about talent. It's really about just being really good at what you do. And when it comes to interpreting copy and finding your unique self such that it can come through in a way that connects with people. So to those actors, I say don't worry about celebrity versus scale, meaning scale, union, pay.
Right.
Because those decisions are very high level and esoteric by comparison to the bulk of the work that's out there.
That's an interesting point of view, piece of information. Thank you for sharing that. That was kind of neat. This has been a lot of fun. I don't know if you have time, but it all ties into what you were talking about in terms of the entry fee and all that kind of stuff about thinking big. And maybe on that note, if you had any suggestions for folks who, to expand their horizons or thinking big or creating. It's kind of interesting. I do a lot of reading, and I'm rereading the book of The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. And I saw your bio come in, and I was reading that, and I was just like, this is somebody who's thinking big. And you mentioned right at the beginning of our conversation is when you're sitting next to Francis Ford Coppola, you're just in that world. What would you suggest to people if they want to start stepping into a different world or a different environment or playing in a bigger field? What do you recommend if you have time?
Okay, sure. I'm going to off the cuff here.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you said you want to step into a bigger field. Find a bigger field. Identify the bigger field. And it's like learning to swim. You have to get into the water. There's no standing on the outside of the pool and figuring it out.
Right.
At some point, you've got to get in there and see how deep it is, how it feels. And I've actually worked with children, teaching them to swim, and it's amazing how much one just has to learn to understand the concept of water, of being in it and moving around before they're comfortable with starting to, take strokes, and before you know it, they're racing each other across the pool. So find the playing field. And as big a field as you can find, there has to be a willingness to get out there and get into the game. Don't stay in the bleachers all the time, or don't stay on the sidelines trying to call the shots. Get out there and see what it feels like to be playing with other folks and to be attempting to achieve something, to get to the goal line, to score points. And get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because if you're not uncomfortable, there's something that's not happening in terms of moving forward, in terms of moving into a new space. You're not going to be innovating something and at the same time knowing exactly what it is.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think we've all been there on different levels at different times, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say the things in my life that I deem to have turned out successfully have all the way through felt like a mistake.
Okay.
How many times I've just woke up in the middle of the night saying, what am I doing?
Yeah. And
have to talk myself into staying the course. Now, there are also cases where I feel extraordinarily confident about certain things, even though I know they may be over the top, or they may smack of, something revolutionary, too much change at the time for the audience. And it takes work to undo that kind of thinking and to sort of, march in the other direction. And as we get older, if you look at research, older folks, naturally have a lot more resistance to change than younger folks. And they come along eventually, or they kind of drop out, the older folks. If you've ever tried to teach your grandmother how to use Facebook, you know what I mean. So get used to dealing with an uncomfortable situation as more of a norm than not. And be okay with the fact that things don't work perfectly. Be okay with the idea that things are constantly evolving and that it's okay to change. And as things drop in your way, as you run into hurdles or barriers, that's the intersection where innovation takes place. How do you get around that barrier? So if things didn't go the way you planned it. The way innovation works is that you go around the things that don't go as planned. That's where the magic takes place. So on some level, you want those barriers. You want those restrictions. That's where the creativity is sort of forced to take place.
Yeah, it gets your brain going.
Yeah.
And the creative
that's
juices.
Exciting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not going the way I thought it was going to go, but it's going. I'm going to keep it going. I know the result that I'm looking for, and even that may need to change to some extent as you embark on your plan or your mission. The goal may change as well, and that's okay.
Was there an obstacle that you can think of that happened while you were creating the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, and how you went around it, or that you could share? I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure. Well, the biggest obstacle in creating something of this size and caliber is cash flow. It takes a lot of money, to design and manufacture a mold, and then to manufacture all of these replicas of the award. And we run a business. I run a business here, an advertising agency, and the time that it takes for me to focus on this endeavor versus the time I need to devote to projects that I'm doing with my clients. It's quite a challenge. So how do I get around that? One, I wake up early and I go to bed late.
Okay.
So there's nothing I can do except put in the hours. And then I work with people and let them know exactly what my circumstances are so that I can get deals in terms of the cost of product and services and loans where necessary or deferments. I just let people know here's the real deal and try to work with people who believe in what I'm doing. Not just, I like you, Rudy, and I'll take a chance, but no. Rudy, this thing is great. You've got a tiger by the tail. I want to be a part of it. I don't care where it goes. I want to be a part of what that is. And they jump in and embrace it with me. And so there have been people like that who are currently working with the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, and that really makes it all happen. There are also people who reach out to me and say, hey, I would love to be involved. Just tell me what to do. That's a lot harder because I can't evaluate any given person's full set of skills
right.
from the simple conversation like that.
Right.
So it's harder to sort of sit back and say, okay, well, let me analyze your resume and figure out where I can plug you in. It's a lot easier if someone comes along and says, hey, I have this skill. Can you use it?
Right.
I can make this happen for you. Do you need that?
Kind of like this podcast to talk about some of the pushback.
Well, on one hand, I feel like I did talk about it from the standpoint of understanding, as you pointed out in your podcast, the marketing piece of what awards are all about.
Yeah.
There is the acknowledgement. That's important. We work hard. We devote a big chunk of our lives to the work we do. It's great to be acknowledged for that.
Right.
That's something that's just good for the soul.
Right.
And it's also great to acknowledge others, to be in a position where you can let other people know that you appreciate what they're doing. That's the heart and soul of awards, of the pursuit of excellence and achievement. Then there is the marketing piece, letting people know what you've done and what acknowledgement you've received. That impresses people because it gives them information about you that is sort of encapsulated without them having to do a great deal of research and thinking in another way. But it gives people a chance to kind of focus in on someone who's clearly, even if they didn't win, self-respecting enough to have entered themselves into something.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there's that marketing piece. Spend money on entering into awards contests, especially an awards contest that's doing a great job of building awareness around itself so that when you do win and you let someone know that you won, they say, oh, yeah, I know about that.
Right.
That's a great institution, and they have great people working on it, and it's meaningful that you have that. As far as the naysayers, the interesting thing is that I don't care how many positive things people may say to you about who you are and what you're doing. One negative thing is all you find yourself thinking about.
Right.
How do I fix that? Why did they say that about me? And that just seems to be part of human nature, and you have to push back, from a spiritual standpoint. You have to not let yourself go there and focus on the positive energy that's coming in. So what I would say to the folks who, for whatever reason, don't agree with the existence of an award or feel that if awards are going to exist, they should be free. So they're just not understanding necessarily that there is a business model afoot. There's a business model at hand that has to be negotiated and understood. I can't necessarily help all those folks get on the same page with me.
Right.
And I do hope that they will try looking at it from a different vantage point, especially to the degree that they can make something positive happen for someone else, and to the degree that they can enhance their own opportunities to do better work and to focus their energies on the pursuit of excellence and evolving their own skill sets. So aside from that, if someone is objecting to any aspect of the Voice Arts Awards, I hope that they will be able to put that in a constructive language that we can use to improve what we're doing, as opposed to a rant or just I want to debate for the sake of debating.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of these things, and sometimes it's fear-based, meaning the person is concerned that they would never win or they would never be considered or included in this, quote, elite, unquote, circle. And so the best thing to do is to damn it. That would be the easiest way to do it. some people don't feel that they can win, and they see that as a negative about themselves, and they react in the way that they react. But I think everybody can win by virtue of getting on the field. You're certainly not going to win if you don't get on the playing field.
Yeah, I was just going to say you can't win if you don't play, right?
Yeah.
What they all say? Yeah.
And that doesn't mean enter the awards. You may have work that you've done and you don't really feel that it's of the caliber that you would want to enter it, and that's fine. I'm talking about getting on the field in life and pursuing excellence.
There you go.
Don't be hard on yourself to the degree that you just decide my skills will never be able to go beyond X. And that does not include the Voice Arts Award, or that does not include a certain level or caliber of performance that I see happening with other voiceover actors who are very popular, for example. I don't see myself ever being that. That's a tough road to hoe.
Right.
And you don't have to be there. You can give yourself more room than that. You can love yourself in a whole different way than that. And if it starts with reacting negatively to the Voice Arts Awards, then great. At least you've started something. But my encouragement is take the next step,
Yeah.
Win one. Do what it takes to win one. Do what it takes to get into the conversation of winning one. Because what that really means is you're in a conversation of pursuing your best self.
I guess it ties back into your comments about finding a bigger field to play in.
Yes.
I love it. That was a very positive message, too. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, the podcast you did, I just think it was great that you noticed that there were different points of view about the Voice Arts Awards and awards in general and what that means in any given person's life, and that you addressed it from the point of view of, how you think about money and yourself.
Yeah.
That was a great message and a great conversation for the voiceover community, for any community really.
Yeah.
Because we're all dealing with that on some level.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a lot out there that's pushing against it, and I heard I can't remember who said it, but it was a great point, and I wrote it down. Is human beings are the only living organism that will hold them back from their full potential. So, like if you look at a tree, they're going to grow as tall and as big as they possibly can. I mean, you look at any other living creature, they're going to try and become the fullest self of whatever that is. Whereas humans kind of just go, I don't know, that's too tough.
That is so true. When I was shooting documentaries for PBS, I had the opportunity to work with Yuri Bronfenbrenner at Cornell, who's an extraordinary psychiatrist who has worked with a lot of children and adults who were, challenged in their lives, educational development and so on. And one of the things he said during the interview was he thinks of people like seeds thrown out to grow. He said one seed may land in a nice, rich part of the soil where it gets a lot of rain and a lot of sun, and so it grows very strong and tall. And another seed might just happen to, catch a breeze that takes it a little bit under a rock.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gets less water and less sun, and it has to twist and curl to find its way to the sun and begin to grow. And it doesn't get as big. But the only difference is where it happened to land.
Mm-hmm.
It still, as you're alluding to, did all it could to grow and to develop and find the sunlight. And there's nothing stopping any of us from doing that.
Wow. This has been great. I think we should leave it at that wonderful note that you just shared. So, Rudy, if there's a way for people to reach out to you or they want to find out more information about the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences and the Voice Arts Awards, what's the best way for people to do that?
There are two great things going on, really three. There's entering the awards, which you can do at voicearts.org. You can go there, you can enter the awards, you can find your categories, and it covers all the crafts that are significant. So casting directors, voice actors, copywriters, directors, producers, podcasters, there are categories for all those folks. And so you go there and you can enter. What you can also do there is buy tickets for that voiceover, which happens the day after the awards gala. So that's a full-day career expo where we'll be bringing in a lot of these same people who I talked about in terms of the craft categories, but agency people, television network people, and casting directors and agents, bringing all these folks into the same room so the voice talent can learn from them, network with them, share their services, and create the kind of conversation where everyone has a chance to grow and do better at what they're doing, but in a safe environment where there's no need for the hard sell because everyone's being invited for the purpose of sharing and growing. So That's VoiceOver works great in that sense. And there are contests for real jobs at That's VoiceOver. That's something that we have really prided ourselves in over the years, to make sure that That's VoiceOver is an environment that is conducive to actual work. So when you're at That's VoiceOver, people are winning contests that lead to actual contracts.
Wow.
For television, for audiobooks, and being signed with agents.
Oh, wow.
And that's important when you're learning and hearing information from people, that you can immediately assign what you're learning to the actuality of getting work. So it's not theoretical.
No, that's huge.
Yeah. So getting everyone in the room that way for That's VoiceOver, that's a full-day event. And you can go to thatsvoiceover.com
Okay.
and see more information about that show. So there's the entering of the awards, there's the awards gala, which is going to be a fun evening, and there's That's VoiceOver. I would encourage everyone to take full advantage of these opportunities to meet the right people, to learn more, and to contribute to the conversation in any way that you can.
Wonderful. Well, Rudy, this has been a lot of fun to have a conversation with you about this and talk about all kinds of neat things. So I just really want to thank you for your time.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out to me, as I said before, and it was a pleasure chatting with you, too. You do a great job.
Thank you, Rudy. I appreciate that.
Our program originates in the Boston studios. We hope you'll join us again. Until then, we bid you au revoir, keep your chin up, and the best of luck.
Well, that's it for this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com so you'll get notices of new episodes, and please share it with your friends and colleagues in the voiceover world. Also, it would be a huge help if you'd like this podcast and rate it on iTunes to help keep it near the top of the list. Feel free to share your comments and questions about this episode and future topics you'd like discussed at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. And if you'd like more information on one-on-one coaching with me and mastermind group opportunities where we focus on growing your business, feel free to drop me a line at my cyber assistant's email address at mike@johnmelly.com. Thanks for listening. Now go out there and share your voice with the world.